I'm John Ogilvy. We're all locked down during these COVID times in our underground biosafety bunkers. And while I'm here, I wanted to record some short crash courses in topics of interest to the GCIT community.
Okay, so the cloud, as we know it, has roots not just in the 1990s, but all the way back to the 1980s. People like John Gage at Sun Microsystems were famously saying that the network is the computer, which I interpret to mean as hardware isn't as important as it used to be. In the 90s, Compaq and I'm sure other vendors started to talk about cloud computing. And the industry really took off once we get into the 21st century, because we see Amazon in the early 2000s building out their own IT background to support their retail operations at Amazon.com, and then realizing that their IT back end was itself a very valuable product. So they launched that as Amazon Web Services in 2005. Microsoft, always the quick follower, launched their solution, which was eventually called Azure, about 5 years later. Now, that's a 5-year lag, but they've been making up ground, but they're still running, to my mind, a couple of years behind Amazon on technical innovation. The second half of the decade saw obvious widespread adoption by the private sector of cloud. It is now the dominant IT paradigm. The government noticed, and the US government started to go cloud first fairly quickly. They had a roadmap in 2011 and certified Amazon for their equivalent of Protected B in 2013. In years since then, there have been a number of large-scale contracts, with the biggest being the JEDI contract at $10 billion. It's not clear exactly who has won that. It's a matter for the courts. In 2013, it's a 2-year lag. The UK followed. They announced cloud first. 2013, their approach is to offer a digital marketplace where independent cloud service providers and consultants and software vendors are brought together with government departments that need IT. And they've been iterating this very quickly, more than once a year for releases. Now they're on G-Cloud 12, which I'm really impressed with. In 2016, Canada ran down the same tracks. There was a publication of a strategy and then a cloud-first announcement in late 2017 with an unclassified contract. Unclassified government systems are fairly rare, but it's a great proving ground, and a number of us were able to get workloads into the cloud and start climbing the learning curve at that time. There was a lag until 2019 when a Protected B contract was available, and that's the bread and butter of government information is Protected B. So here we are in 2020, and what's the state of the cloud? There are 43 government departments, plus a lot of crown corporations and other operations. I don't know what they're all doing. I work for some and I talk to others, but my own guess would be that there are less than 10 departments that have the capability to host a Protected B workload. And that's demonstrated by having an authority to operate for Protected B. I've made a list of departments here. It's just guesswork. There may be some I've missed. Please let me know. Happy to add you to the honor roll. A sanity check on that is that SSC runs a program for their Pathfinders. They have 7 departments they're working with closely to make sure that they're following the Treasury Board cloud guardrails and are setting up a properly secure environment. And they overlap the list there, but it's still a small number, 7 out of 43. And on the software as a service side, there are 2 authority to operate has been granted that I know of at this time, and it's the two organizations that wrote the book on getting certified, so it's still early days for SaaS ETOs as well. Okay, to summarize why is things going somewhat slower than we'd like? The PB, the protected B contract itself, took a long time, about as long as the American contract, but since we had their example, it could have gone faster here. And unfortunately, there's no evidence that many departments use this time wisely to prepare and find staff and train them up and set budgets aside and figure out roadmaps, all the good stuff that allows us to move forward quickly. Another point is that the Shared Services Canada is focusing for the next few years on a very large initiative to migrate workloads from aging/rotting data centers and moving the workloads, unfortunately, to shiny new data centers. That's not the cloud. It's on-premises data centers with SSC's procurement of new hardware.
I've identified a few other possible issues here. You can, entitled to your own opinions. Please disagree with me or agree with me. Reach out through LinkedIn or email. I'm John.Ogilvie at Outlook.com. So this is the end of the crash course on the cloud timeline from a GC perspective, and I'll be back in the future with some other crash courses.